we have a lot of black cats in the neighborhood, and unfortunately, this is a stray that my wife happened to see. So he lives here now.
We are live and ready when you guys are.
All right, good evening and thank you to everyone. We will now start the public hearing for the August 20th, 2020 Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. And at this point, I will turn it over to the Vice Chair who will be chairing the hearing this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Excuse me, I'm a little congested, so bear with me. We are meeting tonight under extraordinary circumstances. Our community, along with communities around the country and world, have been observing social distancing and other health safety measures to slow the progress of COVID-19 pandemic for several months. Pursuant to the State of New York Disaster Emergency Declaration and executive orders, as well as the local emergency orders issued by the Mayor of the City of Rochester, we are authorized to hold this hearing virtually, subject to waivers of certain requirements of New York State Open Meetings Law and the Rochester Zoning Code. In addition, at a prior meeting, we amended the zoning board rules and procedures to allow us to conduct this hearing in the manner I will now describe. Primarily, these waivers involve the requirements for in-person attendance at this hearing. The emergency orders permit us to hold this hearing by teleconference with no in-person attendance, allow applicant presentations by teleconference, and allow public comments both in favor of and opposed to the application to be submitted by email, by hard copy document mailed into the zoning office, or deposited in the secure Dropbox located in the link entrance or in the permit office of City Hall, or by call into the hearing. Written public comments and requests to schedule the call-in comments were required to be submitted by 5 p.m. yesterday. Although the conduct of this hearing has been altered from some of our normal procedures, many things remain the same. All of the normal notifications for this hearing, including mailed notice, publication, and the posting of notice, were followed. All the normal timeframes for applicant presentation and comments in favor of and opposed to the application remain the same. The normal staff report was prepared and posted on the city website. And most importantly, this board will hear, review, and make decisions about all the applications with the same diligence and using the same standards as required by the zoning code. Before we begin, I would like to explain the ground rules of the hearing. When a case is called, the applicant will be allowed 15 minutes to present their case to the board. The applications and full staff report were all posted on the city website last week, or at least a week ago, and were available for the public to review. All applicants were advised to ensure that their applications were complete and included all information that they intend to present at this hearing tonight. As the application is being presented, staff will identify and show the pages of the application that the applicant is addressing in the presentation. Following our normal procedure, the board members may ask the applicant questions about the application. After the applicant's presentation is completed, any scheduled call-in comments will be heard and staff will read into the record any written comments that were submitted after the staff report was posted on the city website. All public comments will be limited to 10 minutes if submitted by neighborhood associations and 3 minutes for all other comments, and the reading of comments will be summarized to fit within these timeframes. If multiple submissions repeat the same comments, staff will summarize those comments. Public comments that were received in time to be included in the staff report will not be read into the hearing record. After all the call-in comments have been heard and written comments have been read, the applicant will have 5 minutes to provide any rebuttal testimony. At the conclusion of the applicant's rebuttal testimony, the case will be closed. However, if the board determines that substantial new evidence has been presented by the applicant during the hearing, either during original or rebuttal testimony, the case will be adjourned and held over to the board's next announced hearing date in order to give the public the opportunity to review and comment on the new evidence. After completing all of the hearings on the agenda tonight, the board may take a short break, which will be announced. After the break, the board will commence deliberations and voting on all of the applications except any application that has been adjourned to another meeting date. Please note that if your case is approved today, a written decision will be mailed to you within 15 business days. The decision will inform you of the next steps to complete the approval process. Before we open the first case, can we please note that we are all volunteers? I would like each of the board members to confirm their presence for the purpose of a roll call and establish a quorum for this hearing and to introduce themselves and mention their areas of expertise. Jim?
Good evening. My name is Jim Best. I live in the northwest quadrant of the city. I was a telephone engineer for just under 50 years.
Do we have LaShawna? Matt?
We do not, no.
And no Tyrese, so David?
My name is David Carr, from Northeast. I'm consulting in development.
Lorraine?
I am Lorraine Jennings. I live in the East District of the city, and my expertise is marketing and communications.
Joe?
My name is Joe O'Donnell. I live in the northeast section of the city. I'm a practicing architect in Rochester.
I'm Cora Murphy. I'm also in the Northeast District. I'm a licensed real estate broker. Matt? Matt, you're muted.
That's what happens when I try to do 3 things at once. Okay, case number 1 is file number V-006-2021. It's an area variance request at 150 Highland Avenue, located in the IPD number 14. The applicant is Shira Cahill, a landscape designer from SWBR, and the purpose is to construct an outdoor seating area accessory to an existing cafe within an assisted living facility, St. John's Home, an expansion of a non-conforming use.
And Shira, are you speaking by yourself tonight, or is anyone joining you?
Oh, I just figured out how to unmute myself. Sorry, I've been like panicking on the other side. Okay.
I just need to swear before we get started.
I'm here representing my client. I do have a colleague with me, and I believe that my client is on as well, Joanne from St. John's Home.
Okay. Joanne, are you here? Or do we just have?
She might be struggling. We've been sort of texting each other, trying to figure out the technology. This is not my first Zoom ZBA, if you believe it, and I'm still bad at it. So
We just have one other person from case 1, and that's Leticia. But no other people are here from case 1.
okay, maybe Joanne will join in a little bit.
Okay, so I just need, and we have, did you say we do have Leticia?
Leticia's on.
Yeah, this is Leticia. I'm
Oh,
here.
okay.
I'm the architect and project manager for the St. John's Home renovation projects, and here to support Shira on this application. Thank you.
Okay. So really quick, do you both solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, well, let's get started. You have 15 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shira Cahill. As we said, I'm from SWBR. We're located at 387 East Main Street. I'm representing St. John's Home, requesting an area variance for a 1,500 square foot outdoor dining patio, which will be an extension of their new Market Cafe. St. John's Home is a skilled nursing home. It's located at 150 Highland Ave. It's on the corner of Highland and South. It's directly across the street from a portion of Highland Park. The project itself is 130 feet from Highland Avenue and is separated by an existing parking lot, plantings, signage, and a grade change that further obscures it from view from the street. The closest residence is 400 feet to the west and is separated by St. John's Home Tower. The purpose of the project is to provide additional outdoor amenity space, which will allow and encourage elders, caregivers, family members, and staff to spend time outside. Research shows that as little as 20 minutes of outdoor time can provide many health benefits to seniors, including but not exclusive to decreased falls, faster healing time after medical procedures, better sleeping patterns. Leadership at St. John's, just recently, Joanne shared with me that they tell residents that they need to get outside and walk, and they say, okay, but they really don't go. But if you provide them with a destination, they go. And I've heard this echoed by many of our clients. We work a lot with senior communities. In fact, this is common to humans in general and is a primary concept of good urbanism and city planning, giving someone a destination to go to. In addition, the act of eating together fosters social interaction and community generation, which is essential to combat the epidemic of loneliness and isolation, which is unfortunately very common in senior populations. The St. John's Home Tower was built in the 60s and expanded in the 70s and has some components that are still a reflection of the institutional model that was used at that time in senior care. Since then, there has been a paradigm shift in caring for elders, which rejects the institutional model and strives to provide a personal and home-like setting. This project is part of a larger master plan, which is implementing the architectural changes necessary to support St. John's Home's shift to a small homes model of care, where a single staff member offers complete care for a smaller number of residents. The outdoor cafe will give additional space for daily activities to occur in a home-like setting. It will also offer new location to sit with families who are considering the home for their loved ones and potential donors to the St. John's Foundation, which directly supports the residents, their families, and more than 900 staff members. Additional trends that are important to mention is that currently with COVID and post-COVID, there is a big push in senior communities to move program space outside. We're finding this in the Northeast, especially where outdoor locations aren't as valued, and now people are really recognizing the value of programming outdoor space, especially for seniors. With the addition of the outdoor cafe, St. John's Home will have 3 distinct outdoor spaces, all with different amenities. They have an internal courtyard that is large and is used for bigger events. And they have a smaller fenced-in garden called the Trinity Garden that's used for smaller contemplation and rehabilitation. Now with COVID, newly admitted residents spend 2 weeks quarantined in the Trinity Garden. So the addition of the cafe will provide a second small venue to use when the Trinity Garden is restricted because of quarantine activities. And as Joanne mentioned just recently, this is the COVID era, we need options, and the cafe will provide us with another option. What's proposed? This is a modest renovation project. Interior improvements include a new cafe for residents and staff of approximately 1,400 square feet adjacent to the entrance lobby/lounge, a renovated office suite, as well as corridor and restroom finish upgrades. The exterior improvements, which we are focusing on this evening, is the addition of dining furniture, sunshades, a shade structure with retractable fabric awning, modest lighting, plantings, and fencing in the current location of a wide sidewalk/concrete slab that is to the left of the main entrance. Concrete will all be demolished and replaced in kind. The current curb profile will remain as existing. 2 delayed egress gates will be installed on either side of the patio fencing, which encloses the entire seating area for safety. A new door is proposed to access the outdoor seating area from the New Market Cafe on the interior of the building. The door will be in a current window location. We have overhead bistro lights, accent lights in the planters, and will change the existing building mounted sconces and inset fixtures beneath the exterior soffit to a warmer color temperature more appropriate for a gathering space. The bistro lights are dark sky compliant. The accent lights are micro spots. They are high efficiency LEDs, and they have a light temperature of 2700 K. The shade structure will cool the pavement currently outside of the tower, improving the site's microclimate and reducing the heat island effect in the parking lot. The area of disturbance is only 1,500 square feet in the exterior. There will be no changes to stormwater volume, drainage, parking, traffic volume, pedestrian or vehicular circulation as a result of this project. The reason that we are requesting the variance is because, as you all know, the property is an IPD number 14, which functioned as current plan development districts do in from the 1975 zoning code. Almost switched to Spanish on you guys, got confused. Because the property has not converted to a PD, any changes are considered non-conforming. When we initially spoke with the city about the project and how to proceed, they suggested that we go for an area variance for this small scale renovation. We strongly believe that the benefits of the project will greatly outweigh any effects on the surrounding neighborhood. To conclude, I did want to mention that we reached out to the community to introduce the project, and we received 4 letters of support from the Lilac Neighbors, the Highland Park Neighborhood Association, NBN6, which is an organization started from Neighbors Building Neighborhoods, representing 6 neighborhoods in the Southeast, and the Highland Park Conservatory. And with that, I'll open it up to questions. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. So let's get started with Jim. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
David?
I don't have any questions.
Lorraine?
Let's see. Yes. Can you explain to me how you anticipate the microclimate on this site? How it would be cooled that much? What, with your overhang and your awnings and everything?
It would be a
As far
mild.
as
cooling.
just as far as the use goes, that it,
Yeah.
because simply because seniors tend to get really hot and it gets hot
Mhm.
outside. So
Yep.
I'm just wondering how, if you can explain that to me, that would really be helpful.
Sure. And that, you know, every small change in the landscape and small plazas and urban environments make small changes. So, you know, it's not a very large change, but what we are doing is, so what you're seeing now in the render that's in front of everyone, that space is existing. So that's a big slab. It's not, nothing there is new. So right now it's just a concrete slab in the middle of the parking lot. What we're going to be doing to improve this microclimate is the addition of plant material. So through evapotranspiration, it'll be cooling the air that's there. Also, soil has the ability to make small, you know, cooling ability to the surrounding air. We're also adding the 3 umbrellas, which will shade the surface of the ground plane, as well as the retractable fabric awning that you can see on the left-hand side of the render that will also be adding further shade. And by just cooling the pavement, it will cool the air a little bit. So, you know, they're micro changes, which is the addition of shade and the addition of plant material that will make it more comfortable. But of course, because this is a south-facing gathering space,
Right.
it will be something that is, you know, depending on the time of day. We do have the building to the west, so the very, very hot times of the day when the sun is going down and it's really pounding on people are going to be protected from the building mass. But because of that, we did want to add enough shade so people would use the space.
Oh, okay. So could you say then the area is totally covered in shade, pretty much?
As much as
90%?
we possibly could, yeah.
How much? 95%?
Let's say 85, just to be
Okay.
a little bit, you know, just to
Okay,
be
sure.
generous. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's a funky shape because it's existing, because we're not changing the curb profile. We're actually leaving the curb in place and just repouring. So most of our protection is going to be from the tower when the sun's going
Oh,
down.
okay.
That's going to give us the biggest amount of protection. And then, you know, during the midday sun, during like the heat of the summer, we'll have the protection from the shade structure and the umbrellas.
Oh, okay, great. Well, thanks for the explanation.
Sure.
Joe?
No questions.
I don't think I have any questions either. So, Matt, do we have any?
Yes, there is additional feedback that came in from the record that I will pull up on the screen and then read. So these first letters came in and were included in the staff report, and then the following letters that I will read into the record are additional public comments that have been received since the staff report was published. And the first one comes from the Reverend Judy Lee Hay at 528 Benton Street. It reads, "Dear zoning board members, my name is Judy Hay and I live at 528 Benton Street, Rochester, New York. My comments are in regard to case V-00620-21, area variance 150 Highland Avenue, St. John's home to construct an outdoor seating area. The outdoor seating is contained within the St. John's property and has no ill effect on the surrounding neighborhood. Since it is primarily for St. John's residents, there will be minimal traffic. It is a creative way to expand social distancing while enjoying the beautiful Highland Park. Therefore, I support the proposal. St. John's comes under the old zoning laws and does not have an updated planned development district approved. St. John's should be required to complete a PDD to prevent piecemeal variance requests for other projects. An updated PDD was required of Highland Hospital and the former Colgate Divinity School campus. The proposal came too late to be included in the July meeting of the NBN 6 represents 6 Southeast neighborhoods meeting for larger community input. And then one additional piece of comment that came in from the Highland Park Conservancy. And this one is from the president, Joanne Beck. And this reads, Dear Sir or Madam, the Board of Directors of Highland Park Conservancy, Inc. reviewed the project description and SketchUp drawing of the proposed renovation of the Market Cafe and Outdoor Area as provided by SWBR at our meeting on July 23rd, 2020. Since the permanent changes associated with the project will occur within the existing site and curb lines of St. John's Home, 150 Highland Avenue, for the benefit of residents, staff, and visitors, and with no anticipated effects on Highland Park, we support your approval of the project. We appreciate the opportunity to review and comment on the project. And those are the only additional two comments that came in.
That was nothing negative, but did you want to respond at all to the comment?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm happy to get the support. Thank you.
All right, so it looks like we're all set. Matt?
Yep, and we can close case 1 and we will move on to case number 2. Excuse me, case number 2 is file number V-007-2021. The applicant is Dominic Piancentini. The project address is 70 Rockingham Street in the R1 Low Density Residential District. The request is to install 1 parking space in the front yard, resulting in front yard parking.
Who do we have, Dominic?
Yep, I'm here.
Dominic is on the call, yes.
Is it just you?
It's just me.
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, give me 1 second. Okay, you have 15 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. As Matt said, I'm proposing to install a front yard parking space. First and foremost, I think hopefully we'll see that maybe if there is any opposition to that, which Matt will read later on, is because like myself, the term front yard parking might be a bit misleading. When I first heard that term, I assumed that my whole front yard would be a parking lot per se, or a big space going horizontal, which is not the case that I'm proposing. I'll kind of detail what I'm looking to do as I move through my speech here. So I'm proposing to do so for obvious various convenience and safety purposes for my property and for my automobile. Obvious, first and foremost, would be providing access to securely park on my own property. Currently, there's only 1 hour parking on the north side of Rockingham Street, 8 to 5 p.m. each day of the week. And directly across from my home is Highland Hospital. And on the south side of the street where the hospital is located, there is no parking. And so, unfortunately, oftentimes, when it gets busy, I'm forced to park as much as 2 and 3 blocks away from my own home just to access my property. Additionally, the street is located or was part of an emergency snow route. As we all are aware that we have pretty harsh winters here in Rochester. And so if I did not have a driveway to be able to park in my own residence and there was a snowstorm, in order to comply with the emergency snow route compliances, I would in theory have to park, I'm not even sure where, but nowhere near my own property during a snowstorm, leave my car to be somewhere else. Being directly across from the hospital makes this a very high density area in terms of traffic, obviously. Having less cars on the street, sometimes even double parked cars, only increases the necessary traffic flow for the hospital and for local traffic to get to and from their homes and through the neighborhood. I recently just bought the property and moved in myself 3 weeks ago. During these 3 weeks that I've lived here, unfortunately, there's been some negative circumstances that have occurred due to the lack of parking. First and foremost, on the move-in day, a U-Haul truck, which was carrying my belongings from my one residence to my new residence here, was having a difficult time accessing my property to unload my belongings. And because another car was double parked across the street, right where my home is, the U-Haul actually got into a physical accident with another parked car directly in front of my house, kind of taking off the young man's bumper. The young man was a hospital employee who was sitting in his car on lunch break and obviously was very upset to have his bumper torn off as the U-Haul was trying to maneuver to get my belongings unloaded. And he shared with me that, and I saw his front had been smashed up as well. That was the second time in a matter of 2 weeks that his car parked directly in that same spot across from my home had been damaged dramatically because of the lack of parking and space in this area. My vehicle, while parked on the street overnight, has been scratched from the bumper by another car, I'm assuming attempting to park or leave parking, as evidenced by a scratch on the bumper that didn't exist there the night before. Obviously, aware of the situation, I kind of check my car every night to make sure that there's no damage from the day before. The next morning I came out and there was scratches on the bumper, I'm assuming from a car that had tried to park or had left. Additionally, someone else has unfortunately gone through my car one night, stolen change, and made a mess of my belongings in the glove box and console. Clearly my fault for probably leaving the car unlocked, but still hopefully would be avoided if I had my own driveway. Additionally, unfortunately, in the same 3 weeks that I lived here, one morning, 2 cars had kind of sandwiched me into the spot that I had parked directly in front of my home overnight, and there was no possible way to get out, causing me to be 3 hours late for work. Luckily, someone who would come up from the hospital was moving their car, and I was able to make it to work, but obviously it was a major inconvenience and hope to avoid that in the future while parking at my own home. Garbage pickup. Because I don't have a driveway and any really space to put my garbage cans out or my totes, twice in the 3 weeks that I've been here, my garbage totes and recycling bins have not been emptied due to kind of having my totes be out but blocked by cars where the truck cannot access those to safely remove them without damaging cars. This morning actually itself is pickup day for my house, and I had to go outside at 7 a.m. to go speak to a young man that was parking in front of my home, directly blocking both my recycling and garbage totes, and ask him to please move his car to a different spot so I can have my stuff emptied. Luckily, he was able to do so, but I intend not to do that every morning on Thursdays, so early to have to get my garbage removed and recycling recycled. Upon moving into my home on the very first week that I owned it, I had a substantial amount of landscaping work done to remove unsightly overgrown shrubs and weeds. These were neatly placed in front of my property at the curb line, but were not accessible by the city boom truck because they were blocked in by traffic. I called the city 4 different times and spoke to people numerous times, left messages, and was promised it would be taken care of or done manually. It never was. And so to avoid further time with an unsightly pile of landscaping brush and rubbish on the curb line, I waited till late one night when the parking had cleared out and dragged the huge piles of rubbish out into the street so that no one could park there so that it could be picked up by the boom truck the next morning. Luckily it was. I'd also like to comment on how installing the driveway, if approved, would not have any detriment to the character of the neighborhood. As I think Matt has pictures, I provided multiple examples of homes with driveways that are just like mine, which are quote unquote front yard driveways that don't lead to the actual full side or rear of the home. Upon walking or driving up and down the street, there's literally no other property on the north side of Rockingham Street that does not have a driveway of some sort, including front yard driveways like the one I'm proposing. And again, based on reading some of the letters of some neighbors who are the few that are in opposition, it appears as if there could be a potential misinterpretation of what a front yard driveway means. Again, in my experience, I had no idea what a front yard driveway meant. To me, it seemed like it would be like right in the front of the driveway, in front of the home, and there would be no green space. Obviously, I'm not proposing to do that. Typically, or basically, what I'm looking to do is clear out an area where there is a current cement sidewalk and extend that a few feet to the left in order to create space for an asphalt driveway. Unfortunately, because the home directly to my left is a little bit closer than homes to the right or in other areas, there's not enough space to have the driveway extend fully to the rear or side of the home. So there is a space still remaining, though, I'd like to comment for green space in the front of my home there. As you can see, I kind of drew a little example of where the driveway would be. There was approximately 500 square feet of remaining green space on the front porch, or where the front porch is directly in front of that space. And so you'll see some of the comments that some folks were concerned about getting green space. I too would be concerned about that, and that is not my intention. Again, it would be a small one-car driveway, if approved, to the left of the porch. Not very untypical of what someone would normally consider a parking space. The proposed driveway, again, still leaves the green space. And I am excuse me, sorry. Oh, so some other comments that I saw from the few opposed emails. Some neighbors are concerned about installing a driveway or a quote unquote front yard driveway would decrease the value of the home or the property and thus decrease the value of the property in the neighborhood. I think, again, it's a lack of understanding of what potentially the term front yard driveway means. For example, I was able to purchase this home pretty cheap compared to the market value of other homes in the neighborhood just recently. And I believe that's strongly in part due to the lack of off-street parking. This is one of 6 homes in the Rochester area that I've owned or currently own. I have other homes in this neighborhood itself on DM Street and Carroll Place. I can speak to the fact that having off-street parking, whether it be all the way to the side of the home or slightly in the front, does increase the value of being able to purchase a home. If my experience does not speak or convince the committee enough to be factual, a simple Google search of does adding parking or off-street parking increase the value of the home would yield results indicate that in fact it does, typically between 5 and 10%. That comes from homes.com, buelldriveways.com, hudsonmoody.com, and biggerpockets.com, et cetera. And so again, adding this one space parking would not detract from the value of the home, but in effect would actually increase the value of the home and increase the value of the homes in the area. Again, I'm going to assume that folks who maybe are drastically opposed and are speaking to decreasing the value may be just misinterpreting what front yard parking actually means. I myself would not propose to, as a homeowner of properties in the area myself, I would not want to do anything to decrease the value of my home, nor the value of the other homes in the area that I own currently. I believe that I have outlined several relevant and reasonable factors that would hopefully contribute to the ZBA's judgment in my favor. I ask the committee members to strongly consider that from the sounds of it, that those who are opposed simply are not aware of what is meant by front yard driveway in this case. And actually, I am not actually to remove any of the majority of the front yard green space on my property. I'm simply asking to put a driveway to be able to park off street slightly less left to the house than would be typically required for a typical driveway. That being said, several houses on the street or in the area have a driveway in the form of an apron and then 2 parallel sidewalk paths with a green space in between that would allow for an automobile to typically park without damaging or leaving unnecessary marks on the lawn. My goal would be to install or implement a asphalt driveway. But again, my main concern is being able to park off street. And so I'd be open to the committee's suggestions to other options for parking besides the street, or besides an asphalt driveway. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
All right, thank you. We'll start with questions. Jim?
Well, I'm glad that your move in went so smoothly. No anticipated problems. By the way, on the south side of Rockingham, there's no parking over there, is there?
No, there's not. There's the hospital across from me, and then down the street, it's all like hills that wouldn't make it possible to park.
Yes, I'm not across from you. So the fellow who had the accident before and got hit again, I wonder why he was on that side if he knows better. But that's
He wasn't the one to park. He was actually parked in what is currently a parking spot, but I think for whatever reason, this time someone was double parked, so it made it hard for the U-Haul, but I can't speak to why he was hit parked there the week prior.
okay. And you said you were planning on doing an asphalt driveway,
That would be my initial intent, yes.
not pavers or something like that, but actual asphalt.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
David?
Dominic, I understand your problem very well. I used to own a property over on Oakland Street.
Okay,
I have no questions.
thank you.
Lorraine? Lorraine?
Yeah, I do understand your situation. And I understand things have been complicated over there in the last few years. So anyhow, thanks for sharing your information.
You're welcome.
Joe?
Yeah, a couple of questions actually. What do you intend to do with the set of stairs that are on that side of the porch?
Those would remain intact. Those would not be impacted by, so as you see there with where the little sidewalk that leads up to the set of stairs is. If approved, that would be part of the parking lane, and it would extend a few feet to the left on my property line to make a parking space. But because it's not, as I understand it, not wrapped around to the left of the house or the far left because there's enough space, it still is not required to be called front yard parking. And so I'm assuming that some folks who read the application or saw what I was doing thought that it might be directly in front of the porch, which obviously would look not very appropriate. And I'm hoping that's why they were opposed to it, because they didn't quite understand what I was looking to do.
Okay, because I noticed in your diagram, it looks like the sketch shows going from the corner of the house to the porch. And
that's probably just my I'm not a architect by trade, so it could just be my error in drawing, but my intention would be to remove that little cement walkway and extend it into a few feet left for a driveway.
So the edge of the driveway would align with that sidewalk that goes along the side of the house, the west side?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and then end at the first riser of that set of stairs, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And if I could make it less wide, that's okay too. I just, when I had someone come out and give me an estimate, that was their suggestion. That would go to the stairwell, the risers.
As a point of reference, I just want to jump in real quick. A legal parking space is 9 feet wide by 18. And if you look at the survey and subtract the 32 of the front wall of the house from the 18 from the porch, it gives a little bit of wiggle room in terms of dimensions for width.
And is that, Matt, do you know if that 24 from the front of the house to the right of way, is the right of way the sidewalk, or is the
Yeah,
right of way?
so if you're looking on the screen where the cursor is right now,
Yeah.
the 24.8 feet listed on the survey is from here
Right there. Okay.
to the front wall of the house.
Okay. Okay, I understand your dilemma. I mean, because you have a little bit of a unique situation in that there's no room to take a driveway on either side of the house. But on the other hand, I also say, well, why'd you buy the house then if you knew the parking was like this? So
I didn't realize that installing it would be the process that it is today. So, and I love the neighborhood, and I figured I would just kind of roll the dice and see what happened.
okay. Okay, no more questions.
Thanks, Joe. I don't think I have any questions. I think we all understand the dilemma. We all went over there. It's definitely a tough street. So thank you for your presentation. Matt, is there anything that needs?
Some additional feedback. I will first read the ones that I just scrolled through were in the staff report. Now we're on to the additional public comments. I will read them into the record, and I will start with letters in support of the application, and then letters in opposition, and then the applicant will have the 5-minute rebuttal period. The first one comes from Turgay Aksoy. No property address listed, but it says, hello, I own 2 properties in the area. I am in favor of installing a driveway at 70 Rockingham Street, 14620. Anything that can be done to eliminate parking on the streets would be helpful. Below are the 2 properties I own in the area, 792 Meg Street and 204 Caroline Street. The next one comes from Xavier Burgos. It says, to whom it may concern, I am owner of 2 Carroll Place, Rochester, New York, 14620 in the South Wedge neighborhood, and I am in favor of allowing the driveway parking space to be permitted at 70 Rockingham Street, case number 2, file V007-2021, 70 Rockingham, and then the project description is listed there. The next letter comes from Amy Holland Dilko, property owner at 76-78 Rockingham Street. I am writing in support of the proposed project on the property immediately next to my property. And then the case information is listed there. And then it states, I have owned the property next door at 76-78 Rockingham Street for 32 years. Rockingham Street is a beautiful neighborhood where residents keep their homes and properties in meticulous condition. The majority of residences have driveways that enable residents to park their vehicles on their properties, many of those vehicles to the immediate left or right front of their properties. This does not in any manner detract from the visual presentation of the properties. Having vehicles parked off of the street grants our residents greater access and proximity to our homes, as well as protection and security of our vehicles on our property. Being an emergency route, residents are required to remove their vehicles from Rockingham Street during wintry conditions. Residents should be able to park their vehicles on their property where they know their vehicle is safe. Everyone is most likely to be well aware that employees and visitors at Highland Hospital park on Rockingham Street. This has been and always will be, and as a result, it is frequently difficult to find a parking space on Rockingham Street within close proximity to our homes. Permits for residential parking only has never been an option and would likely be too difficult to enforce. Parking on Rockingham Street, especially near our properties, will continue to be on a first come, first serve. Frequently, it is not the resident homeowners who get the street parking. The property at 70 Rockingham Street is prominent and has always been well maintained. It has the area that can both physically and visually accommodate a parking space to the front of the property, which will not detract from the property. It will in fact add significant value and appeal to the property and owners. I commend and support Mr. Dominic Piancentini in his request to add this parking space to his newly acquired home property. Thank you for the opportunity to share my support for this project. Your consideration is appreciated, and I will hope for a positive result. The next one comes from Frank. It says, I am writing in support of the proposed project on the property immediately next to my property with the case information. To whom it may concern, I am a longtime resident of the Highland Park neighborhood and have lived here with my family for many years. While out on an evening walk, I noticed the posted sign in front of 70 Rockingham Street. The young gentleman who now owns the home was sitting out on his porch. I asked him about the sign and what he was proposing. As I understand it, he is applying for approval to install a driveway at his property. Honestly, I am surprised that this would even be a question given the location of the property, its proximity to the hospital, and the current parking situation. I am in full support of him installing the front yard parking space because I think it will be a benefit to him personally, but to the neighborhood as well. Next one states, my name is Robert Rice and I live at 216 Rockingham Street, and I am in support of the application to install a front yard driveway at 70 Rockingham Street. The following letters are in opposition to the application. Dear Zoning Board members, this email is in regard to case number 2, file V-007 2021, request for a front yard parking space located at 70 Rockingham Street. As a 38-year owner-occupied resident of 112 Rockingham Street, I have observed the chronic parking concerns in the Highland Park neighborhood, formerly called the Elwinger-Barry neighborhood. Chronic parking concerns. 1, on-street parking related to Highland Hospital increased over the years as they increased their outpatient activity and reduced inpatient activity. 2, rental property that results in 3 or more adults with cars leading to insufficient off-street parking. 3, a multifamily dwelling building on Meg Street with no parking. 4, single-family owner-occupied homes with no driveways. While I recognize the parking concerns listed, I strongly oppose the request for the following reasons. It is against the City of Rochester ordinances to park a vehicle in the front yard of a residential property. Having cars parked in the front yard of homes is aesthetically displeasing and negatively impacts the residential character of a neighborhood. It is likely to reduce property values of nearby homes, leads to front lawn space occupied by a vehicle, as well as snow piles from snow removed from parking space. Potentially negatively impacts water drainage, for example, water in basements due to loss of soil to absorb rainwater and snowmelt, diminishes the neighborhood's standing in negotiations with Highland Hospital regarding zoning variances, negates the neighborhood's advocacy for Highland Hospital to address the visual impact of their campus on all 4 sides of the hospital that lies within the boundaries of a residential neighborhood, is justifiably and very likely to agitate neighborhood residents who have been coping with the parking concerns for years while respecting and following City of Rochester ordinances regarding front lawn parking. And most importantly, this would set a precedence for other property owners to seek zoning variances to park vehicles in their front yards or simply just park in their front yard. Front yard parking is simply a short-sighted solution that is detrimental to sustaining the character and viability of the neighborhood. The zoning board should be aware that a committee of the Highland Park Neighborhood Association that has met regularly for years with Highland Hospital formed a parking task force in 2019, includes neighborhood residents as well as hospital officials with the goal to obtain data on parking concerns and use the data to identify potential solutions. In late 2019, the task force conducted a parking survey for neighborhood residents. Given the logistics of COVID-19, the parking task force has not met for several months, and the next meeting is as of yet not scheduled. I am a member of the parking task force. The potential viability of permit parking on the few blocks in the neighborhood with houses lacking off-street parking is a long-term solution that will be considered. Permit parking also supports owner-occupied residents who simply lack off-street parking. Your time and consideration of neighborhood residents' views is much appreciated. Thank you, Jacqueline Lindauer, 112 Rockingham Street. The next one comes from David Sell, 155 Oakland. Upon receipt of the notice from the Bureau of Buildings and Zoning received July 31st, 2020 via standard mail, I wish to comment on the proposed project at the address cited above, namely the installation of one parking space in the front yard, resulting in front yard parking. I am vehemently against this proposed project for the following reasons. The precedent of allowing one individual opens up the likely possibility the new owner should have made front yards and as parking spaces. While I am no real estate agent, I would think definitely reduces property value, not to mention being visually unappealing. One would think that in recently buying a house with a driveway, the owner would be aware of the parking situation, without a driveway, the owner should be aware of the parking situation in this area. Eats up more green space. Parking is already at a premium due to on-street parking of Highland employees. Approval of this project will incentivize those without driveways to apply for the same, and not out of the question that Highland Park neighborhood would be littered with front yard parking spaces. That is unacceptable. A polling of neighbors indicated that most were not in favor of passing this proposed project. And there is one additional letter, this one coming from Gregory Steffel. Dear zoning board members, this email is in regard to case 2, file number V007-2021, request for a front yard parking space located at 70 Rockingham Street. I am the property located at 56 Rockingham Street. I own the property located at 56 Rockingham Street and have done so since January 31st, 2004. My property is 3 parcels down from the property filing the request. I oppose the request for the following reasons. It is against the City of Rochester ordinances to park a vehicle in the front yard of a residential property. Having a car parked in the front yard of a home in this neighborhood would be aesthetically displeasing and compromise the visual lines of the block from Oakland Street to Mount Vernon Street, which were created over 100 years ago, could potentially reduce the value of the home adjacent the property at 70 Rockingham Street, could potentially obstruct sidewalk snow removal during the winter months, would eliminate a public parking space in front of the property, of which parking is a premium in this neighborhood. And most importantly, this would set a precedence for other property owners to park vehicles in their front yards, further diminishing the aesthetic of the neighborhood of which the neighborhood association has fought so hard to preserve. I thank you for your time, consideration, and the opportunity to voice my concerns regarding this issue. And that concludes the additional public feedback.
Okay, Dominic, you have 5 minutes for your rebuttal. Go ahead.
Okay. Hopefully it's as apparent to the members of the zoning board as it is to me that based on the letters and the feedback that are opposed, again, I think there's a misunderstanding, I'm assuming, of what front yard parking is. Again, I know that I had no idea what that meant and would have assumed that meant that my whole front yard would be a parking lot or a horizontal space in front of the porch, which I would not be proposing to do, as it would decrease the value of my home and decrease the value of the other homes and be not pleasing aesthetically to the character of the neighborhood. As the one gentleman mentioned, this is not a multi-family dwelling. There's no residence here besides myself. It is my permanent residence. Again, with those concerns about starting a trend for application, there is no possibility of parking on the south side of Rockingham due to the hospital and or due to the other homes farther down east on Rockingham being up on a hill. There are no other homes that I was able to find up and down the north side of Rockingham Street that do not have a parking space or driveway of some sort, whether a traditional kind or a front, quote unquote, front yard driveway, like I'm proposing to do. As a couple of people mentioned about decreasing the value of the home, if they are misinterpreting the front yard space, I understand what they're talking about. But as I mentioned, having experience in real estate myself, and also finding sources online that quote unquote would increase 5 to 10% of the property value of my home by having a space, kind of dispels that as an issue. And lastly, the concern about limiting valuable parking spots on the street. If I were to be approved to install my driveway, the way it would work out where it's located, 2 of the 3 spots that are in front of my home / the home to my left would still remain, and the 1 spot would be removed so I could. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dominic.
Right, so we can go ahead and close case number 2, and we will get started with case number 3. Case number 3, file number V-008-2021. The applicant is John McGuire of 316 South Winton Road. Property is located in the R1 low density residential district. And the request is to change the exterior building material and to install a series of replacement windows in a single family dwelling, not meeting the citywide design standards for a designated building of historic value.
And do we have John?
I believe we have Chester.
Does anyone hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
We're here. Okay,
Okay.
good.
Okay. I don't know if you can see me or not, but if you can hear me, I'm kind of technology challenged, so.
We can hear you. Your video's not on. Just let us know who is here tonight. Give us your name so the chair can swear you in.
My name is John McGuire. I'm one of the owners of 316 Winton Road South, and Reverend Chester Freeman is here with me, and he is co-owner.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, do you both solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
We will.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you have 15 minutes. Go ahead.
When we first purchased this home in this area, we were immediately aware that this is both a neighborhood of tradition and innovation, from the stone-faced, more classical homes to the more uber modern Unitarian church with its repetitive brick spikes and privacy glass, to the more organic and undulating curves with stained glass of the nearby Jewish temple that exists a mere block and a half away. The old and the new can indeed does comfortably coexist. Take the iconic Eastman Theater, now attached to a totally glass facade and a striking blown glass sculpture functioning as a chandelier. Rochester proudly speaks to its past and embraces the new, the fresh, the contradictory, and it works amazingly well. Sure, there will always be horrified citizens, but in a mere second, any objection they feel is in the rear view mirror of their car, or the traditionally inclined architectural blood pressure is lowered by a well-chosen sonata played by the RPO. Next, did we pull this design off the cover of the latest architectural trendy magazine? No, we hired a respected Rochester architect to make a statement that fits the new senior citizen owners. So who are we, and why do we want this home to look this way? We recently sold a classic historic 1842 cobblestone, and that we fully restored. So we intimately know what is historic and what is not. We are knowledgeable in this area and are intimately involved in anything that deserves preservation. But we also know that homes ultimately fall prey to the ravages of time. Newer will be the trend, not the hand-done treasures of our more distant past and the added burden of fewer and fewer craftsmen to save them, and at astronomical costs. We are sensitive to architecture as well as our neighbors, and we decided to create a new, fresh, easier to maintain, and exciting exterior. Most importantly, our immediate neighbors not only embraced the change, but at some stages in our conversation about proposed changes, literally danced in delight over our color choices. It is well-known design concept that the dark colors recede and bright colors jammed on, which is admittedly a postage stamp size lot for this house, startle the eye and draw attention. Burnt wood is indeed trendy, but is now becoming increasingly more commonplace. In fact, nearby Victor will supply the siding, and it is eco-friendly and made from reclaimed lumber. Metal roofs are found in the neighborhood, as well as a variety of window styles. And the more commonly preferred choices are of variety of manufacturer. Our second wood selection is Western Red Cedar. This mellow wood breaks up the front with a burst of tamed warmth, and fewer large windows in the front add light to the interior. We admit that we are removing windows from the north. In one direction, we are looking at the added privacy. On the other side, the south, we are also not met with any resistance. And in fact, that neighbor is moving away. And I'm sure any person who buys the house will appreciate this further privacy. Those who say this is too industrial, they keep looking ahead for a nanosecond as they drive by to the behemoth of the nearby East Avenue Wegmans, which is modern as well, and large glass panes. For them, all they need to do is just look ahead and not stare at our home. For those who walk and jog, we have two sides of the street to choose, and perhaps if they're interested, they could stop. Take a look at the future, classic and well-tended landscaping, to the now and to the now what is the pioneer works of Farmington's supplying of burnt wood siding. They are looking for a huge opportunity in near sales in the future. I asked the board not for a variance just because we are adding a home beyond commonplace to the neighborhood already in transition, but introducing something that will, despite minimal objections from distant homeowners, ultimately become the more classic among the historic. We are too mature just to stir the architectural pot simply because they are spoons. I realize from the location of the house, should it be listed in the historic district if it were historic. But during its somewhat lengthy existence, there has been nothing to dignify this 50s cookie cutter home to be considered of merit and worthy of preservation, or the city would have done it decades ago. To date, there is literally nothing unique or old enough to elevate this home to the status of historic, and I strongly believe we should be allowed the right to proceed. The reasons why we've delayed the possession of this home and application was neither we nor the architect, nor when asked was the homeowner aware it required a variance for change. The former owner was approaching winter and a move, and was single woman with a heart issue and a pacemaker, and the home was packed with possessions from a recently died sister. And so we gave her 7 months rent-free to make it easier, not stress herself medically, and to find a new home on a single floor that might, and not be forced to go into housing that might refuse her much-loved dog, and might sound and force her to downsize to the point where most of her possessions needed to be sold. This might sound a bit over the top, but it is very probably true. And then, of course, there's COVID virus that added several months to the delay. I thank you for listening, and I hope for a positive vote.
Okay, thank you. Jim, do you have any questions?
Mr. McGuire, how long have you owned that place?
I trust you.
Pardon? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the answer.
Could you repeat the question, sir?
Yeah, John and Chester, your audio is waning in and out a little bit. Just as an FYI. Yeah, Jim, if you want to repeat.
I know we have a very difficult connection.
Right.
Oh, that was better.
Yeah, that was better. I'll repeat the question. The question was, how long have you owned this place?
John? Did we lose him? Matt, you're muted.
Sorry, let's, it looks like they jumped off, so let's wait a second here and see if they jump back on.
And Cora, that was my only question.
Anna, have they jumped back on at all?
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, what we can do is we'll wait another second here. We'll attempt to get them back on. And then Cora, as the chair, you can, we can, because of the internet issue and making an accommodation for them, we can start the next case. And when they get back on, we'll communicate with them. We can go back to their question and answer period to be able to allow them to do that.
Sure.
Hey, Matt, before you do that, are there any color renderings of the house?
No, the only information I have is the drawings that are on the screen here that are included in the staff report. Keep in mind too, there's been mentions of color in the public comment portion, and the zoning code, so therefore the board does not regulate the color. So you're just simply looking at the removal of the original material, and then of course the change of the windows.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you mentioned that in the pre-meeting.
Yeah.
Matt, is there a, do we have a sample of the material that he's proposing to use?
We do not. The description is located in here. And what you'll want to do, David, mark that question down so you can get some more specific information from the applicants. Maybe they can describe it in better detail. Anna, if they're not back on yet, we'll get started with case 4.
Okay, sounds good.
Nothing yet? Okay.
Nothing yet. I'll let you know when they are back on.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so we'll get started with case 4 and then we'll allow the applicants to come back. All right, so case number 4 is file V-009-2021. The applicant is John Genrich, architect, and the project address is 54-56 South Union Street, located in the R3 High Density Residential District. And the request is to install an approximate 24 square foot internally illuminated detached sign for an existing bar restaurant, Rock Brewing, not meeting certain design standards.
And we have Chris, is that right?
I think we
have Craig and John.
Craig, Chris, and John, right?
Uh-oh.
Yep, we have Craig, Chris, and John, it looks like.
Okay, everybody.
I'm available to begin the discussion, board.
Okay, I just want to swear you in first.
Sure thing.
Do you all solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, that is correct.
Did everyone give me a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. You have 15 minutes. Oh, sorry, 1 second. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, board, for taking our application for this area variance. The proposal we are bringing to the board today is to install a sign for the Rock Brewing facility, who has just partnered up with FLX Wienery. They're expanding their facility into the entire building due to the prior tenants finding another facility. With that being said, they've expanded their outdoor patio and renovated and expanded due to the COVID to maintain social distancing and safe separation for the restaurant and brewery. With that being said, the existing facade is a fully glass storefront, 1 story, and it has an elevated patio. In front of the patio where the landscaping is, they propose to put in a sign which is compliant to all the zoning criteria, location, height, and size requirements. Due to the glass, it's unfortunate that we can't mount the sign onto the storefront. This variance is actually asking for the sign to be illuminated from the interior of the sign. That's primarily what this area variance is for. Currently, the zoning board does not have any provisions for the illuminated sign. However, they are coming up with a new proposal for city's peacemaking plan that likely the new zoning district further north on South Union Street within this new comprehensive plan has stated this for the Center City zoning district and would be permitted to have internally illuminated signs. As you know, across the street is that zoning district, which in the old maps, the separation between the zoning districts is directly down the middle of South Union Street. That is subject because of the old inner loop, which no longer exists. The development across the street is part of the new neighborhood of play. And with that being said, we have executed a design to fall within those design parameters of the neighborhood. The tenants across the way are in a commercial district, and I would feel that them renting in that district, they are already expected to have some sort of direct illumination visually to see from their apartments. We have looked at potentially illuminating the sign from the grade level and projecting lights at it. However, those lights projecting at the building would definitely be detrimental to the R3 district, which would be illuminating the houses to the north and south of the parcel. In addition to this, we looked at potentially mounting it on the roof. However, the zoning code dictates that no signage would be allowed on a roof. In addition, it would look more like a marquee to that. It's pretty straightforward. I don't want to take up the board's time with this. I would move forward to any comments from the public or from the board at this time.
Okay, thank you. Jim, do you have any questions?
What's going to happen with the existing plantings that are in that area?
At this point in time, I haven't discussed what they're going to do with the landscaping at this portion. I can ask Chris, if Chris is on the call, if he has any thoughts on the landscaping.
Yes. At this point, we'd keep the landscaping around it, the rest of it around it, because we really enjoy the way those grasses sit. They add a nice feel to not only the customer, but the look of the building. So all the other grass around it would stay until we have to cut it down to let it regrow.
Okay, and the next question is, what are your normal hours of operation?
So we're open Tuesday and Wednesday now 4 to 10. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday we're now 11:30 to midnight, and then Saturday 11:30 to midnight.
Thank you.
We're not trying to
Also-
be, we're not trying to be a late night place. We never have been, never desire to be, so.
David?
No question.
Okay, how about Lorraine?
Yes, I do. On the photos that you submitted for the hearing, both of them say daytime non-illuminated. So will the signs not be illuminated during the daytime?
That is correct.
That is correct? Okay, so just in the evening or at night?
That is correct.
When are you looking at? As soon as dusk and after?
Yes, dusk to the closing of their business hours,
Which is 11 and midnight, correct?
which would be Tuesday and Wednesday at 10 o'clock, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at midnight.
Oh, 10 and midnight, okay. So I have a question about the illumination. So is it a backlit, like a halo with the letters?
It's an internally lit sign that has a polycarbonate lens on the front. So you'll be getting more of a glow than a direct beam being cascaded.
So there's no beam going out. It's like, is it like a halo?
That is correct.
Is it like
it would be like a halo.
Oh, a
Sure.
halo, okay.
Yes,
So it is kind of like a backlit halo?
correct.
Okay, great.
Backlit interior illuminated with a polycarbonate lens, colored polycarbonate lens. We're looking at you know, a soft orange and sort of a softish blue color.
Okay,
Light blue.
okay. So, I think I already said this, but I'm just going to repeat it. So there is no beams going, it's just an illumination with the letters, correct? Like a
That
halo.
is correct. Yes,
Okay.
like a halo. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Joe?
Just real quick to confirm with Lorraine's question. So the graphic I'm looking at in front of me right now that Matt has on the screen, they both say daytime non-illuminated, yet one looks like it's at night.
That is correct. So the top slide is daytime non-illuminated, polycarbonate with a metal powder coated finish in a vibrant color. So during the day you can spot it. At night, where you see the FLX and the ROC and the outline of the A where it's orange, that's a polycarbonate opaque lens that the light behind it will allow that to glow.
So shouldn't that one say nighttime?
Daytime, that is correct. That graphic on the bottom where it says daytime non-illuminated, that's a typo on our part.
Oh.
That should say evening time illuminated.
Okay.
That is my error, Joe. Thank you for correcting that.
No problem. I just want to make sure I was looking at the same thing. It looks like two different signs, which I think is kind of neat. But-
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
Same sign, but one in the day, one in the evening. My apologies.
Okay, and all of my questions were already asked. I quite like the design. So
Thank
Matt,
you.
do we have any additional feedback?
Yes, we have one letter to read into the record, and it comes from John Lembach, 105 Meg Street, to Mr. Tyrese Bryant, Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals for case number 454-56 South Union Street. Dear Mr. Bryant, the applicant has submitted a rather artful, innovative, and eye-catching design that does not overwhelm its building facade and generally relates well to its proposed location. The problem is the neighborhood in which it is located, R3 residential, was not designed for this level of non-conforming activity or signage levels. It is very doubtful that any of the tenants in the brand new high-end housing directly across the street were told they would have commercial sign lighting shining in their windows 24/7. There are some problems with this application as expressed in the statement of difficulty standards by the applicant. The economic benefit for the neighborhood are neither listed or described. Mounting of signage on a roof is specifically forbidden by the zoning code. Not internally lighting the sign is an option. I agree the proposed sign would be permitted if not for the internal lighting. However, it is highly speculative to ask for approval of an internally lit sign based on the possibility of some future zoning code regulations permitting this change. The zoning board is required to make judgments based on the current zoning code. The proposed sign is very stylish, but still would be opposed in many CCD areas. Codes by their nature restrict choices and encourage good practices. The current zoning code values residential livability more than commercialism, thus the exclusion for internally illuminated signage. There does seem to be a middle ground for this case. I suggest the zoning board allow the proposed sign as submitted, but restrict the lighting to certain hours. Limit the hours of illumination by requiring the sign goes dark at 11 p.m., which also coincides with the hours limitation for their outside patio. This should reduce the commercial light pollution likely to offend the apartment dwellers across the street. I support the approval of this application, provided 11 p.m. curfew is required for the sign's illumination. And that concludes the additional public feedback. Oh, Corey, you're on mute.
Sorry. You guys have 5 minutes to for your rebuttal. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The points being made, the economic benefits for the neighborhood weren't listed. It wasn't clear at the time, but Rock Brewing has gone into partnership with FLX Winery to take over the whole building. This is really economically stimulating the neighborhood and bringing more people into this new neighborhood that is being developed in this location for South Union Street. It's definitely a positive. With that being said, the sign is really marking the destination of the brewery and an eatery, which there are none along South Union Street. So it's kind of a good wayfinding system for establishing the new neighborhood, as well as incorporating the design into the neighborhood of play. Again, I think comment B is pretty self-explanatory. We cannot do it on the roof, so we haven't proposed that. With not internally lighting the sign is an option, yes, we do agree, but this facility's primary hours are in the evening time. Unfortunately, that's kind of how breweries and bars and restaurants operate. So in lieu of not having a real wayfinding system or signage to designate the facility, I think having it illuminated in the evening time would both help people find their destination, as well as protect the people in front of that facility from potential unlikely neighborhood vagrants in the area. Finally, we just want to make it a point that I think it's important that he is not a local resident within the area. He's part of the neighborhood of Park Avenue. And this is specifically geared up as a design aesthetic to establish this neighborhood of play and this new neighborhood that is being developed across the street. Just definitely want to make that point. And your newly released comprehensive plan, envisions FLX Rock's side of Union becoming part of Center City District, which makes a lot of sense as it's split down the district in the center of the road, which is generally not good practice and is, again, only a remnant of the impacts of the old inner loop and not the city's current forward thinking. And you can refer to your own map as well that you guys are establishing for this district.
Matt, this is Craig. If I could just add a couple of quick comments. There are some internally illuminated signs on buildings directly across the street that have been recently completed. Some of those buildings, the one that's under construction now, is going to be mixed use and will no doubt have commercial signage on it when complete. And there's a hotel, of course, proposed for across the street as well. So, this neighborhood is definitely changing. And, this building is certainly more in keeping with the west side of the street than what's on the east side currently, but that's what it's facing. So it's facing out to the CCD, as John pointed out. So that's why we kind of think it wants to be part of that, because its use is really much more akin to the west side of the street than some of the uses on the east side, although there are other bars and things on the east side to a limited degree.
Just less than 1 minute, guys. You want to add anything else?
Just thank you for your support.
Great.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. We're gonna close case number 4 and jump back to case number 3. There were some technology issues. So again, we're gonna jump back to case number 3. And this is for 316 South Winton Road, applicant John McGuire. I believe we have Chester back, and what we will do is get started with Jim was kicking off the question period.
Yeah, my question was just a simple one, and that question was, how long have you owned that building?
Let's get him unmuted.
Chester, thanks for rejoining us. If you don't mind unmuting yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The question was how long we've owned the house. We bought it last fall and in November, and allowed the the former owner, who was a single woman, to live there for approximately 7 months to move. And then we were tied up with COVID virus for the remaining time. And we've been only in Rochester the last 6 weeks.
Thank you.
Sorry for the technical delays and mess. We're on a very, we lost the connection entirely.
All right, let's go on to David. David, any questions?
Chester, is there an additional material that you have that you'll be using for the building? What type of material you'll be using? Do you have any samples?
Chester, the board members are looking just for, if you could be a little more descriptive with the material. The drawings that were submitted from your architect, of course, describe it a little bit. If you could just go into a little more detail about the material, maybe what it looks like,
Sure.
durability, things like that.
Sure, it really looks like a house has gone through a scorching fire. And it basically, what it does is creates this sort of very interesting alligator look to the outside of the board, and it creates a barrier for bugs. It increases the fire resistance, and it increases the longevity of the siding itself. And it's truly quite unique, but it's becoming more and more accepted in the architectural world. And in fact, as I said, there's a manufacturer in Farmington that's placing a great deal of money on the assumption that this will be a siding that will take off and produce a good income flow.
Let me ask this question. Does the current siding that's on there have to be removed, or does it go over it?
It would have to be removed because it is incredibly poorly shaped and rotted in several places, and all the paint is blistered and has been blistered since we bought the house.
Okay, thank you.
Lorraine?
Yes. How long has the remodeling process been going on?
We started with the architect last fall and just recently began with the interior.
I mean, physically, all the physical elements? Because when I went by, there were numerous trucks and things were all torn apart. So I guess that's what I'm referring to.
I would say it's probably been maybe 8 weeks. 6
Oh,
weeks.
okay. Okay. And I
Six,
wonder,
6
pardon
to
me?
8 weeks.
8 weeks? Okay.
No, I must confess that our builder is not the tidiest person in the world. And so
I was also, okay.
Yes.
I was also wondering if you anticipate selling the house after
No.
it's remodeled.
No, absolutely not. This will be our forever house and they'll take me out feet first.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Just so the board members know too, and I think the applicant confirmed this, if I remember correctly, there's ongoing interior renovations as well. So some of the work
Correct.
you're seeing going on.
Correct. Each room was in, I wouldn't say deplorable shape, but I would say just so incredibly dated that it would not appeal even to someone who's looking for a house to flip.
Oh, okay.
It was just.
Joe?
No, I'm gonna hold off. I don't have anything right yet, just yet.
And refresh my memory, you may have already covered this, but have you considered any materials that more closely simulate the original design of the home?
The original design of the home is just historically unattractive. It really, I think if you looked at it from the picture standpoint, even the shrubbery was poorly maintained. I mean, the woman was in her late 70s with a heart issue, and it looks better than it actually was and is. A lot of the flowers in the front were plastic, and the vines were crawling into the house and up underneath the siding, and the roofing was beginning to lift, and they were
To the siding material in the windows. If there
the
was just
siding material was shaped shingles, and it was incredibly rotten in several places, and every place needed to be. There was so many layers of paint on it, it would have taken a decade to get it all off and make it look anything other than terribly blistered. And so, and the windows were leaking air and very dated, and the architect just felt they weren't worth trying to save.
okay. I still don't think that answered my question. I'm sorry. I guess I'm asking if you considered any materials, not trying to restore what's already there, but any alternatives that may more closely resemble what was originally there in terms of the windows and the siding, or was this your only are these your only design choices? That's my question.
Well, these were suggested by an eminent architect, and they sounded as if they would be something that would be long lasting and outlast us, and would add a flavor to the neighborhood. And it's so widely varied in this end of Winton Road. It's the architecture is somewhat classical in some areas, somewhat pseudo-historic, and shall we say, colonial. Small panes of glass, someplace panes of glass in the top and full panes at the bottom. There are several houses nearby that have sliding glass doors and patios with metal roofs on them. There's just such a wide variety of glass. And again, this was so dated that the shingles and the shutters were in such terrible shape. The pictures don't what is the old figure? Figures don't lie, but liars figure. The pictures sometimes hide our blemishes, and this house was truly incredibly blemished.
Okay, thank you. Matt, do we have additional feedback? Matt, you're muted.
I will get that right eventually. Members of the zoning board, I have reviewed the proposed documents for the renovation at 316 South Winton Road. I do not think the proposed finishes or style fits with the neighborhood. I have seen the flat overhang with brackets or institutional looking buildings like the apartments overlooking the river, photo attached, and I saw a black metal roof, black siding, and white windows on an industrial building along Highway 5 and 20, other photo attached. It loses the human scale and becomes very machine looking. I realize these are sleek and modern, but they look trendy and will become a dated style. The argument for the window in the living room is to let in more light, but all the windows on the north and south sides of the building are being closed off. This doesn't make sense. One part of the submittal says the existing siding is mineral fiber boards and other parts says cedar. It is really too deteriorated. Is it really too deteriorated to scrape and repaint? That's what the rest of the neighborhood does. The existing building is definitely a 1960s look, of which there are only a few in the neighborhood. So it has its own way of looking out of place, but it still looks single family residential with a human scale. Those descriptors fit the rest of the neighborhood. I am trying to think of a positive critique to be helpful in moving forward. Use a lighter color, perhaps a warmer brown tone to suggest natural wood for the siding. Use a sloping overhang in front, keep windows the existing proportions and add some divided lights. Casement windows are acceptable. Keep some of the windows on the north and south. Thank you for allowing me to comment. Melissa Carlson of 246 Castle Bar Road, and 2 photos referenced in the email are on the screen. And one more from Trevor Harrison. It says 26 Nunday Boulevard, members of the zoning board. I am writing regarding the application for 316 South Winton. I have reviewed the design and I have some concerns about the proposed solution. When I moved to Nunday Boulevard 7 years ago, it was because I appreciated the eclectic mix of homes in the area, which I feel creates a fabric and context all its own. This context includes the smaller 1950, 1960 era ranch homes such as this one. While I welcome the renovation of this home because it has not been well taken care of for many years, I am struggling to support the proposed design. I am in favor of buildings and residences being a, quote, product of their day, but I also believe that such design solutions should draw from the context of the surrounding area. In this case, I feel the proposal uses too many trendy materials and elements where 1 or 2 such elements might have been effective. The materials, colors, and details seem more fit for an industrial park than for a neighborhood such as this. The combination of black siding and black windows with white trim is very dramatic, but also overdone on the small house. The use of vertical siding might be employed on a smaller section of the house, but the majority of siding in this area has a horizontal characteristic, and this design therefore seems out of character. The proposed and burnt wood Shusugi band section of siding is a beautiful material, but is not used as a true accent in the way it could be. By toning it down and just adding 1 or 2 powerful notes on a small building like this could add so much to the design, and while also supporting the unique personality of the Cobbs Hill neighborhood. I appreciate your time and commitment to our city. Those are the only 2 pieces of public comment. And again, I need to remind the board, you are not reviewing color choices, not part of the review process.
Okay, Chester and John, you have 5 minutes for your rebuttal. So go ahead.
Did you receive any comments in support of the house?
The deadline was yesterday at 5 p.m. So anything that was received by 5 p.m. yesterday was included. Anything after could not be included.
Okay,
So if you do have, to that point, if you do have neighbors that were in support of it, you can certainly talk about that.
Yes, the neighbor directly across from us was delighted that we were adding this look to the neighborhood and thought it was, her mother was thrilled the fact that it was going to be black. She just said that house needs to be black. And I think the situation is the house is, we're not trying to make trouble or stir the spoon of architectural controversy. But the neighborhood truly is changing, and the nearby churches are just really incredibly modern and do this too. I'm an artist and a retired craftsman. I have worked in the Smithsonian, and I'm not saying that to impress you. I'm just trying to show you that I have an extreme amount of sensitivity to architecture and to design and to neighborhoods and to people. And my next door neighbor we called her last night, and she was appalled that somebody as far away as some of these people who are protesting would make the comments. She said she appreciated the fact that we were closing windows on the south, and because that was giving her more privacy. And she appreciated the fact that we were taking this incredibly deteriorated building and bringing it back to the 21st century. The architect appraised the building and said that it really was not able to be restored. The materials were in such deplorable condition that the replacement was the only option. And as I say, this Shojiban is maybe trendy right now, but Victor would not be putting thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into new buildings and new manufacture of this particular material if they thought it was going to be trendy and ugly and unattractive and unappealing to the general public.
And the only other statement that I would like to make, this is Chester speaking, is that we've lived in and renovated, like John said, the 1842 cobblestone house. We were there for 20 years and renovated that. So we have a great appreciation for history. And what we wanted to do here was to change our style as we are changing our lives and getting older. And we wanted to do something different. So that is why we selected the materials that we did. This is our last home. This is our final home. We wanted to make it special, and we both love the materials, and we talked with our architect for many months. We consulted with him for many months before the plans were drawn about this. And this is our final home, and we just wanted to make it special. And we're just asking you to let us have that final wish in our life. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Great, and thank you to the applicants for jumping back on there. Okay, so we did case 4, so we will go to case number 5 now. Case number 5 is file number V-10-2021. The applicant is Novell Greaves. The project address is 350-362 State Street. The zoning district is the CCDR Center City District Riverfront. And the request is to alter the original storefront style windows on the first floor of a multi-story building associated with a change of use, not meeting the citywide design standards for a designated building of historic value. And we have the architect, Peter, with us here. Peter, if you want to unmute yourself and the chair can swear you in.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yep. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony that you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. You got 15 minutes and you can start now.
Okay, I'll just give a brief overview. We were hired by NKG in Brooklyn, New York. They're purchasing this building, and it is currently vacant. It's a 3-story building attached to the other row houses that are on State Street. There's 2 property parcels that are listed there, 350 through 362. It's actually one wide open space. It's completely vacant. And the the rear of the building are these decrepit appendages on the back. So the plan is to take them down and use the existing footings, and we're going to build up a 2-story addition in the rear. And the 3-story, we will connect that to the existing 3-story building and have a total of 16 apartments, a combination of efficiency 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. There will be access on State Street. There will be a storefront on State Street. entrance through, and then there will be primarily a rear entrance on Toronto Street, which is the alleyway in the back. So the question at hand here is the storefront. So the owners originally asked us not to do a combination of commercial and residential. They really wanted to just stay with residential. So the storefront design that we've formulated here, we're presenting tonight, is basically kind of a continuation of what's going on right next door. We're not going to be innovative. We're just going to continue. We're going to clean up the front elevations, facade, take down some of the sign boxes. There's a fire escape that's going to come off from there and just basically get cleaned and sandblasted. And we're going to keep the architecture original. Roofing will be replaced to match. And the infill and where the storefront is basically going to resemble next door. So it's going to be an infill with, there'll be fixed glass wood windows and then wood panels, which will match next door. It was really our only choice to do something like this. We do have a presence on State Street. We're following that part of the code. So we do have an entrance that way, and on the rear primarily. So if you read through, this really was, we're kind of just following it. This is a kind of a logistical progression of design and how it evolved. So with the entrance on State Street and in the rear, it comes into a north-south corridor, which will serve, and then there's an elevator tower and stair tower. And it works out, pretty well for what it is to address, the needs of making this building come back to life. I don't know if there's any other things. The primary focus of this application is the storefront and the variance, and to, our position is it's not self-created. We're just following the logistics of what had been done before. So there's nothing innovative or new. We're just kind of making this all blend together. The windows will be similar style next door. There'll be infill. We're not going to touch or alter the brick facades. They're going to be they will be infilled windows, white, same as next door. On the side street, we did make a definite distinction between the rear two-story addition, where it touches the existing, so it's got a brick facade, but it's similar, but it's different. So we articulated that side elevation, so you have this sort of a glass break between the two. We're hoping to feature a rooftop sitting area in the back too, just because there is no real outside seating. So hopefully that'll be a feature that will be a benefit as well. So with that, really, it's kind of short and sweet, but that's our presentation. We're following let me see, I'm looking for the design standards, Matt. Designated building of historic value, DBHV guidelines. So I've gone back and forth with Matt, and this is, I must admit, it's a little bit new in terms of terminology. I understand where they're coming from, though, from the city. So anyway, I think that's it. If anybody has any questions.
Sorry. We'll open it up for questions. Jim, do you want to get started?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, how about David?
No question.
Lorraine?
Yes, I just have one question. It's really very nice development, but I just have one other question. I'm just wondering, I'm just a little confused here. Okay, it says that the owner name is 40 J Street LLC, on Elmwood Avenue, which is an office building. So who actually does own it? Is it N?
I'm not sure if the NGK in or NKG in Brooklyn has not closed on this. They have an accepted purchase offer on this building. So once it's approved, they are going to have to close. This is a technicality, so I'm glad you brought that up, because you're allowed to make presentations on purchase offers or option agreements if you have control of the property, which they do. So I think that they were just waiting for this final approval and they're going to close on it. So to answer your question.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Joe?
No questions. Did a great job, Peter. I've looked at that building. It's a mess. Good luck.
We've been working on it a long time. Thanks, Joe. Very
Yeah,
much.
nice job on the design, though.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
I agree, and I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Matt, do we have any?
We, no, do not have any public feedback for this one.
Okay.
So with that, we can close that case.
Thank you all very much.
And we will scroll to the last case of the evening, file number V-11-2021. It's at 112 Hudson Avenue. The applicant is architect Scott Fisk. The zoning district is C2 Community Center District, and the request is to construct an approximate 3,600 square foot addition to an existing contractor operation facility, an expansion of a non-conforming use. I believe we have Scott with us this evening.
Yes, good evening. This is Scott Fisk. I'm president of Party Partnership Architects, and I'm making this presentation tonight for Bill Farmer, the owner of Catenary Construction. This is like round two for him.
Oh, Scott, hold on.
Yes.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Scott, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you have 15 minutes. You can go ahead.
All right. As I'd started to say, Catenary Construction has been on this site now for some time. We were before the board within the last year for the first renovation he did there that brought a warehouse building out near the street. He had been looking at various options about whether to expand a little further somewhere else, a different warehouse. His final decision was to stay here, which is why we are back to you again for this second warehouse addition. It's basically just a 3,500 square foot roughly warehouse building, unheated, meant to store his materials inside, primarily for security, also in his efforts to clean up the site and make it more presentable. If any of you have been by there recently, you'll see that he's done quite a bit to clean the site up from what it was about a year ago. I don't really have a whole lot more to offer for it. I think it's a pretty straightforward project, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Jim, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
David?
Scott, I'm very familiar with the project, and I think you guys are doing a very excellent job.
Thank you.
Lorraine?
I do not.
Joe?
No questions.
And I don't have any questions either, so I'll turn it over to Matt.
No public comment for this case.
Okay.
So we can close case number 6, and that will conclude tonight's hearing, tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Thank you to everyone for joining us, applicants and citizens watching, and then we will move to deliberations. We do need to switch over the stream to do deliberations. Does the board want to take a moment and then we'll jump back on?
Maybe just a minute or two.
Okay, so the time now is 7:51. We'll get started with deliberations at 7:55.
Perfect.